following is a combination of 2 workshops that I gave in 2019 as part of our yoga teacher training program at the Sunrise Yoga and Meditation Academy. It's about pain and how yoga can help people deal with chronic pain, and how we as yoga teachers can facilitate a safe space for our students to do so. Obviously, I'm not a medical doctor, so please read the disclaimer and know that everything I share is designed for educational purposes and comes from my personal experience of dealing with severe back and neck pain due to scoliosis and severe menstrual pain. It's a live classroom experience, so you can hear our students provide their own stories and insights, and I think that has more value than just me recording the content. I hope that it provides some hope and some ideas on how you and your students can better live with happiness and health. If you have any questions, please send us a line. Our topic for the next hour or so and throughout the month that we'd like you to explore in your personal practice and as you practice to teach yourself is how yoga can be a positive container for people dealing with pain. Yeah? And at some point in our lives, we'll all suffer some kind of pain, whether it's physical, emotional, or mental pain. At a yoga studio or in a yoga space, most people coming to you for a kind of pain will probably talk to you in terms of their chronic pain. So acute pain, where it's a medical emergency, you tend not to see these people. They will go to the doctor, they will go to the hospital, they will go somewhere else. If an acute situation happens, you'll all be trained in first aid, so you know what to do as a first aid responder, and then you let go, help will arrive for these people. What is the number one chronic pain issue that most people...
Back or neck?
Back or neck pain. So the majority of people that will come to you say, oh, my chiropractor said, or my doctor said, come and try yoga because I have chronic back pain.
That a professional chiropractor told her not to do yoga when she had chronic pain.
Many people will say that.
Yes. So
Well, she told me that I should never ever do yoga. Full stop, because I was over flexible. I had too much mobility.
Yeah, so hypermobility can lead to injury if you are doing a yin yoga class and pressing into your flexibility. But for you to do a powerful hatha yoga class that builds muscle and strength would be very beneficial. So, it's always case by case, and if anybody says never do something, we'll ask them, is that based on your personal experience? Or where is that research coming from? Because most doctors haven't done yoga themselves. And a lot of doctors also have not been in pain themselves. And only until recently, medical schools, would have 1 hour of study in pain management. Now it's about 8 hours. Physiotherapists have a lot more. So they tend to deal with people in more chronic pain situations. Medical doctors deal with acute pain situations and deal with medicines and scans. They're not dealing with people who associate themselves with chronic pain. We all have pain, and it will come up as you progress deeper through your yoga practice. But for people who are living with chronic pain every day, many will come to yoga saying, oh, I've got a sore back. I heard that this will help, or I have chronic pain, so I can't do that. Yeah, so these are the kind of people that you may encounter.
I just suddenly, thinking about that, I was thinking, would this still be, so my neck, I don't think that I have chronic pain, but I have limitations, because
range of motion
previous
limitations.
It's a chronic condition that you manage well. Without managing it, you would have chronic pain.
So what we know is that pain is in our brain. It's not actually in the damaged tissue. It's part of the signals that your brain are sending down to you. For what purpose? Why do we feel pain?
Protection?
Yes, just for protection. So it's very simple. So if we make pain, if we get it down to its base form, it's just a way of the body saying, hey, pay attention. There's something not right here. So if I've been bitten by one lion in my right thigh, and for some reason that lion's gone, but over here in the distance, there's 5 other lions that are about to chase me, am I going to feel the pain here? I won't feel the pain. I'll keep running. Yeah, your brain is protecting you. Pain is a protection. It's a form of protection saying, stop, be alert, adapt, make a change so that the pain goes. So I'm going to keep running, endorphins are filling my system. I will run until I am out of sight from these other 5 lines. Then I'll finally notice the big chunk out of my thigh. So we have to remember and educate people and remind people that pain is in your brain and it's actually a protective mechanism. So befriend it, lean into it, and listen. And that's what yoga does for us, because we provide our students with the slow environment, the slow breathing, the pace and the time to actually listen. What is really going on? And the more you listen to the body and the more you bring awareness to it, we notice that things start to shift. So the pain intensity may go up, it may go down, it may move from the right thigh to the left thigh. So we start to get an embodied experience that pain, just like everything in life, is forever changing. Anicca, it's constantly changing. So we don't need to be fixated on it. We don't need to be attached to our pain. It's okay to feel it, bring it to full expression, and it's okay to let it go. Because many of us, and I was like this with my spine, because of my deformity, my story behind the physical pain was that I'm ugly, I can never wear a bikini, I'm not beautiful like my mother. So I had all this emotion covering all the layers of my body so that I wouldn't show it. And the minute I let that go and accepted, this is how it's going to be. Physically, structurally, it's never going to change. But that's okay. I can still be beautiful in my own way. The pain disappeared. It's a long journey, but eventually when you're able to surrender, in your notes there's the Sanskrit word Ishvara Pranidhanami. This is what we're learning in yoga, the ability to let go of our physical tension, let go of the story, let go of the outside world. Just be here, be now, be present, observe, and notice how things shift. And as human beings, we have this remarkable ability to heal ourselves. We do. Even without training, a lot of people will activate their intuitive wisdom when they're given the space and the time. Yoga is just one way that we cultivate that. So what most people now are saying in the pain science world, including some medical doctors, is that pain has to be seen in the context of the whole environment and the whole person, which basically means it's not just a physical sensation that's happening to us. So for example, my knee, I hurt my knee. I physically have tissue damage, my meniscus is torn, I go to a physio, I get it seen to. Yeah? It's not too bad. And then obviously I can't walk, let alone run, so I can no longer run. What do I do every morning at sunrise? I run, I love it. Yeah? It's my lifestyle. So all of a sudden I'm getting a little bit angry and frustrated. I start walking instead of running on the beach, and I'll see other people running to me. I get jealous, I get angry at them. So all of a sudden I'm attaching a story, I'm bringing emotion, I'm a failure, or my body's weak, or I'm getting old. I'm starting to bring all these layers into my situation. All I've done is just torn my meniscus. And with me it wasn't too bad, so in time it will heal. Yeah, it's healed. But yet I'll still get pain. And so where is that coming from? If it's not coming from my physical body. Yeah, it's coming from my story. So what happens with people is that you'll have an injury, it is healed, but we're still attaching a big story that comes along with us, because we're not one-dimensional people. We're not just in a physical body. We have an emotional body, we have a mental body. So everything will start to play into how I'm experiencing myself in that moment. And for most people, without training, they go into a pattern called central sensitization. And this is what happened with people, for example, as sciatica. A lot of people suffer from sciatica, and it becomes quite chronic. It lingers for a long time. And then all of a sudden it'll go away. And then in 6 months' time, it'll come back again, and you can hardly walk, you can hardly move. And if you follow people closely that have situations like this, for example, it would always flare up when her father would be quite ill. And all of a sudden she would have to be the parent, and she would have to give up her job to go and look after her father. So all of a sudden there's another story that's coming into her life, and she would associate her sciatic pain with feeling frustrated about what's going on in her life, that she has to give up things in order to go and care for her father. So she's a really good example. And even yesterday she said at the moment her father's good, her body's good. There's no symptoms of physical pain in her body. For a lot of people, what happens too is that the brain, it's called smudging. The receptors in your brain will smudge. So with sensual sensitization too, I might just touch you very gently. Feels nice for you, but for somebody who has sciatica, if I touch them here, they may think it's like a burning sensation. They become so highly sensitized to pain that their brain is confused. It's not knowing what is going on. What is chronic pain?
Pain that goes on and on.
Yeah, pain that continues. It's anything that is sustained for around 3 to 6 months. So ongoing symptoms. And it can come and it can go. So it may not be continuous. You may have a 1 week and it disappears, and it may come back the next. So that in itself is very interesting, that it comes and it goes. Who here identifies with suffering with chronic pain? Usually it's a physical situation. Yeah, so you'll be able to participate in the conversation, because it's a conversation and I'm just going to facilitate it. So what we know about pain is that usually chronic pain, there's a disconnect between actual tissue damage in the body, physical injury, and what is actually going on. Yeah? So we know that when there's an acute situation, you may have surgery, you may have drugs, you may have a bandage, you may have plaster put around you, and the body will heal. It has this amazing ability to heal. So body is physically healed. You take off the bandage, you stop the drugs, doctor says, okay, go home, and a week or maybe a year later, the pain will return. The pain returns. So this is of interest to everybody now in the pain science world, why the pain lingers. So why would it linger? People who are...
Sort of trained your mind to sort of really activate those pain centres.
Yeah, they talk about pain pathways and neuroreceptors, and pain science itself is quite complex. From a yoga perspective, we look at the human being totally. So we look at the physical body, the mental body, the emotional body, the energetic body, and the bliss body, the pleasure body. So they're called the 5 koshas, the 5 koshas. And this is why yoga can be such a transformative and healing experience for people dealing with chronic pain. They may not be aware of it when they come to class. They think they're just doing physical poses and a little bit of breathing. But when taught correctly, moving through the 8 limbs, as you learn in the course, you start to feel all of the benefits on every layer of your 5 koshas. And this is why a lot of people, and you yourself will also feel that yoga can really help you with chronic pain. A lot of the information is in your notes, so we're just going to go through some of the main points. What can happen, and what we know is that pain is actually in your brain, so it's not in the injured knee. Yeah, pain is a manifestation of what is going on in your brain. And more specifically for us modern day people, it's a product of our mind, of our beliefs, the beliefs we have about our physical body, about ourselves, about the event that triggered the acute pain, beliefs about what medicine will do. So we all know about the placebo effect and how taking a sugar pill can have the exact same healing effect as the actual medication. And it has a lot to do with the story that we're telling ourselves, how we rerun the event, how we perceive the event, how we use the physical or emotional injury to become part of our identity. Yeah? So what you'll find is that when people start practicing yoga, they're moving their body, they're using their breath, they're actually focused on themselves for the first time. They become very aware of the chronic pain and all of the elements that are behind it. So the story, you often have flashbacks or visions, things will start to come to you. And you'll start, sometimes maybe you've experienced it, you'll start to cry in a yoga class. Or you'll start to feel angry in a yoga class. Or you go home and all of a sudden you're sitting there and you start to feel an emotion. So we know that yoga is affecting us on the emotional level. Scientists say that chronic pain is no longer muscular, and most of the time it's not related to bone, because bone will heal in about 6 weeks. Muscle tears can also heal anywhere between a few days and 6 weeks. So where is the pain? It is in the brain, but on a physical level, they say that the brain receptors, they're triggering pain in the connective tissue of our body. And this is why when we do true yoga, which is a lot slower, it's not done as an exercise form where we're seeking cardio stimulation. When we go through the practice nice and slowly, we're affecting not just the muscle, not just our bone alignment, but we're getting deep into the connective tissue that makes up the matrix of the body. And in particular, when we do a yin yoga class, or any yoga class that is yin-like, that is slower in nature, that is introspective in nature, it will start to make us quite emotional. And sometimes we don't know why. Other times we do know why. So we also know that people that are in chronic pain often become hypersensitive to any kind of stimulation. So a soft touch on my knee at the moment is fine, but on somebody else who has just had knee surgery or had knee surgery in the past may be extremely sensitive to this area, and their anticipation will also increase how you perceive sensation, particularly pain in your body. And you'll all know from whether it's been illness or injury, tearing a meniscus, whatever it may be, when we suffer pain, we feel a sense of helplessness. We have lost control over our body. We may no longer be able to go for the marathon run, or we can't go to yoga class. And this creates a lot of emotion behind it as well, and starts to feed the story of what is happening. But all that has happened is that I've hurt my knee, for example. So when people come to you in yoga and they say, I have a very, very sore back, it's chronic, I can't do this, I can't do that, what are we going to do? What are we going to do as yoga facilitators? If we know that pain is in the brain, it's related to the beliefs that we have about the initial injury, it's related to what's going on in our home life, the stresses of life will exacerbate the pain. What is the first element of a yoga space or situation that can help this person?
Breathing exercises, pranayama.
Even before that?
I would say empathise with them.
Pardon?
Just to empathise with them.
Yes, empathy will come into it, but it's just creating a safe space. Because when we're in any kind of pain, whether it's acute or chronic, perceived pain, we're putting our body into the sympathetic nervous system, so we're in the fight, flight, or freeze response. So people are generally breathing either very shallowly or they're breathing quite quickly. Their body is on high alert, thinking that they're going to be injured again. Yeah. So what we do, and this is what you'll experience when you come to the studio, is that, Janelle said, it's like coming home. I feel safe here. And that's the starting point where yoga can start to bring holistic healing to the situation. So creating that safe space. And then, of course, the breathing practices of yoga. And what else did somebody say? Pardon?
A different place to do the exercise.
Yes, definitely. We're creating a support for them. So I would quickly, it's on the phone. I was reading this morning about a medical doctor who has discovered the true benefit of yoga to bring healing in her life because she had a lot of trauma, in emergency and seeing people lose other people. So she was finding it quite traumatic for herself. So she embraced yoga, started going every morning before she went to the hospital. And one of her patients eventually said to her, how can you sympathize with my suffering when you haven't suffered yourself? Can we? Can we sympathize, empathize with somebody else? So what do we do? What's our role? How can we do that? No.
How can you do that? Listening.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just being there. Being that presence that allows the person to fully express what it is that they need to express. Yeah? Listening, creating a sense of trust, that it's okay to feel what you're feeling. Sorry, Gail.
Yeah, we discussed on Sunday how all healing takes place in the presence of a therapeutic or healing relationship. So the relationship you establish with your students is what allows the space for healing. It's not so much the medicine that they take or the cast of plaster that's on there or the particular pranayama, although they're all helpful to it, changing the acidity in the body, etc. But we create a space for healing by the relationship that we have. We talk about it being safe, we talk about it being empathetic or sympathetic, supportive, and we can only have that therapeutic relationship with the student when we come from a place of no fear. So if we have a fear in ourselves around injury or death, and we're talking about our yamas and niyamas, about that ability and the kleshas, that ability to have no fear. Something can happen to the student in your class or before your class or after your class. Your role is to not go into fear around that. You know, this is her journey, his journey. You can be there as witness to it, but you're not responsible. You're only responsible for the therapeutic relationship, for the space that you're setting up. So we talked on Sunday about what happens if someone does go into a pain cycle in your class. You know, they suddenly trigger that old injury or they create a new injury. How do you be with them? Fearlessly.
Most people in the Western world, 80% of adults at some time in their life will say that they have chronic back pain, lower back pain. Yeah, many of us here, we're sufferers. Yeah, so you may be able to share if this is true in your experience, because we have to keep coming back to self. This is what science says, but is it true for you? Yeah. So there's one doctor that I follow closely. He's passed away now, but his name's Dr. John Sarno. He's written many books. I think the best one is called The Body-Mind Prescription. He's a medical doctor. He would do surgeries on people with lower back pain. And eventually, over years, he realized that there was a thread, an underlining thread between all people with back pain. And what it was unexpressed emotion. The emotional body, its inability to be fully expressed was what was keeping these people in pain. What he says, his main body of work, he says that often people with lower back pain will feel the physical pain to detract from the emotional anger and rage that has built up in their life. Because in society, it's not seen as something proper to show your anger and your rage. We don't have a safe space out there to be angry, to rage, to get emotional. So people, they internalize that, and instead the brain will start to create areas in the body where all that suppressed emotion is, and the brain will tell you that you're in pain. So what he did with his patients, he stopped surgeries, he stopped medication, and gave people the opportunity to express their emotion, particularly rage, yeah? But all emotions, yeah? Whether it's sadness or even joy. Like, how often do we fully express the joy of life? In a football game, yes, we can do it. Sometimes at a birthday party, but then even then we shy away. So we've all been conditioned in life not to be a full expression of many of the different layers of our body. Yeah, so it's something to think about, to see if it resonates with you, if it's been a part of your experience. How does that feel for you? Lower back pain.
My main injury was when my first marriage fell apart, and I had, this slip disc down the bottom, and so I went through all of that, and then when my second marriage fell apart, all of that weakness was there, and it really flared up, and it's sort of like and I did experience a lot of rage, and I can see how that's connected. Yeah, it's my thermometer, really. And now I know, when that's starting to get a bit funny, that there's something unresolved.
So it becomes deeply empowering when you educate yourself and other people that pain is not just a physical sensation happening in your body. It has a belief system. You have a belief system around why you're feeling the pain. You have a story, and you can change it. You may not completely heal the slip disc, but the slip disc in itself, 50% of people that have a slip disc never feel pain, ever. So why is it some people feel pain and other people don't? There's one of our graduates in the first year, give me permission to talk about. So she has sciatica. I also get sciatica. And for her, it flares up when her story behind being a daughter and a caretaker to her father is exacerbated, when she has to give up her own time, her own work, to go and care for her father. This is when she notices that the physical pain will come again. So through yoga, through meditation, and becoming aware of what is going on, she's been able to manage it so that the pain doesn't overtake her. Because for many of us, the pain becomes so much that we become the pain. We obsess about it. It's all we can think about. And we know that wherever we give our energy, it's going to grow. That thing will grow. It's like watering a plant. The more you water the plant, the more the plant will bloom. The more we feed the pain, the more the pain body is going to come to full expression. So we never want to ignore our pain. And it doesn't matter what anybody tells you or what any student says. If they're feeling pain, they're feeling pain. But we need to educate and to experience that pain is in your brain. It's a signal saying stop, be alert, adapt, make some changes, lean into the pain, notice what it's doing and why it is there. Why is it there? So it takes a lot of courage, the third chakra, a lot of courage to change pain. And a lot of people don't want to change. You'll give them all the tools that you know, but they still don't want to change. They're not ready for it. Because we have to go through a big transformation, of acceptance, of surrendering, of forgiveness, letting go.
There's also a reward to having pain.
Yes.
If I have pain, then it gives me a certain permission to be a certain way. So if I let go of my pain and I let go of that prop, I have to become someone different. So there's no reward anymore.
Yeah. Katie on Sunday gave us a good example with her ankle.
Yep.
She realized, I think only recently was it, that for many years, what was her story? When she was young, she used to always roll her ankle at netball, and it meant she didn't have to practice. She didn't have to train.
She didn't know that she was
She didn't know this at the
got
time.
that connection as an adult.
Yeah.
When she was doing her flying thing and studying Hawaiian kahuna. And it got difficult doing the flying on the earth, like your feet are on the earth and they have to pretend to fly. And it would get really painful in her ankle when she didn't want to, when she reached some limit of keeping her arms out and flying. So, my ankle's sore, I can stop. And then the teacher pushed her to keep going through that ankle pain. And that's when she realised ankle pain has been there as an excuse for me to get out of doing something I don't want to do from the time I was little.
Getting out of practice.
Yes.
And then she also...
It's a reward to the ankle pain.
And she traced that back, she traced that back to stuff that had gone on with her parents, when her parents, I think they got divorced, or there was something, emotional disturbances going on in her family life. And she did roll her ankle, she had an acute injury, but from that, she, in order to, sometimes, especially as children, we either bury the situation or we exacerbate it in order to explain certain things. And that's what she was able to trace it back to. And as a result, she was empowered now to know, we use our discernment. Is it really physical pain that we're in? Or is it something else? What else is going on? And this is the power of yoga, because yoga is all about really understanding, becoming totally aware of what is going on in your body and mind. Another thing, where is my photo? Are my notes here? Oh yes, here we go. So Frida Kahlo, have you seen the film about Frida? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an amazing film. She was hit by a car, had severe spinal damage, This was the photo when I was growing up that I was just obsessed with. She's wrapped and she's got bandages all over her, and I just thought, yeah, that's me. I feel in so much pain. I can't walk, I can't go on, can't do anything. And then years later, I started to realize the power of this artwork. And you can see that she's got nails into her body. And that was what I did with my pain and what many of us do. And in Buddhist psychology, Buddhist meditation, they explain that for a lot of people what we do when we have pain, we have the acute injury, it happens, and that is called the first arrow. It's called the parable of the arrows. So an arrow goes into your knee. You're injured. Yeah, you can no longer walk or you can no longer do your physical activity. Slowly hobbling along, you see other people who are engaged in activities that you used to be able to do. So you get a little bit jealous. You get really frustrated. And the jealousy and the frustration and the anger, the loss of control, the fact that your knee is not healing, these all become other arrows. So we start throwing onto the injured area arrow after arrow, and this is what exacerbates the pain. So in Buddhist meditation, we learn to be silent, to sit, and to trace the story back to the first arrow. What was the initial injury? And then we become aware of what are the other arrows that we have, the story behind the pain. And can we let go of the story? And you find that when you can let go of the other arrows, when you can let go of the story, you find healing. You may not find physical healing, your knee may be always in a certain way, but you won't have the pain signals anymore. Yeah? So the parable of the second arrow. And what we'll do in meditation, maybe not today, but in a video that I'll post for you, is we use the acronym of RAFT or RAIN. So in your notes, we have the RAFT acronym. So I'll just talk about the RAIN one here, and the R-A-I-N. They're very similar. I'll have to rewrite that. R stands for recognize. Recognize what is going on. So I have a pain somewhere in my body. Be with it. Lean into it. Use the tools of yoga, the support, the props, the breath work, the silence to really start to recognize what's going on. The A stands for asking yourself permission. Can I allow this? Can I allow myself to feel the pain, to notice maybe why it is there? What is it trying to alert me to? For a lot of people, it'll stop here. They can't do it. They're not ready to do it. They may not have the safe space. They might not have the time. They may still be living in a certain fear response, yeah? In the yoga space, sacred space, it's nice and safe. Most people will say, yeah, I can allow it. I'll be with it. I'll continue on, yeah? The I stands for investigation. So we investigate. We have a deep sense of curiosity. Why? Why am I feeling this pain? And asking yourself that will start to bring up the story. You'll have memories, you'll have flashbacks, and you'll start to process it. And as you process it, you become emotional. You shed the tears. You feel, oh, I'm not sad, but I'm crying in this pose. Yeah? So the investigation will take you deeper into the layer of the koshas. And the N stands for nourishing yourself with compassion. So compassion, especially in Buddhist psychology and Buddhist meditation, is the number one thing that we're cultivating. Karuna, compassion, and metta, loving kindness. So being kind to yourself, taking away the judgment, taking away the comparisons, giving yourself compassion. It starts with yourself. And then through our own practices, even if you don't have physical pain, you have something going on, but we do learn that self-compassion so that when you are given the opportunity to help others with pain, you can be there without pulling away, without going into their fear and your fear. You can be there and just sit with them. Tell them it's okay to breathe through it. Give them the support they need. Yeah? So RAIN, recognize, ask if you can allow the pain, if you can allow the sensations, investigate it, have that childlike curiosity. It's like you're wandering through your body. Oh, why is that here? Or you're wandering through your life. So deep sense of introspection. And then nourishing yourself with compassion, being gentle to yourself, taking time to do your practice, taking time to share. So we also know, especially for women, it is the same for men, but especially for women, the way we deal with a lot of our life, and especially, anger and physical pain and suffering, is we talk to our girlfriends. When we talk to our girlfriends, the brain starts pushing out a lot of oxytocin, the bonding hormone, and all of a sudden we feel better, even though nothing's really changed. Yeah? Men tend to deal with their problems differently. They go into their cave and they think about things, and they might have one trusted male friend that eventually they can go and talk to. But for women, that's what we tend to do. We tend to gather and talk to our girlfriends. We talk from the heart space. What is also important, and I don't find this written much, but pleasure. Because we know that pain is just the other side of the coin of pleasure. You can't have one without the other. It's like we can't have night and day without each other. It's the namaste, the darkness and the light. So one way that we can let go of the addiction that we have to pain, the chemical, hormonal addiction, but also the rewards that we get from being in pain, telling other people that we're in pain, is having some form of pleasure practice or self-care practice. Yeah, where you indulge in beautiful sensations. You take the focus away from the pain, and maybe you go get a massage, or you go and have a beautiful meal. And while that's going on, the pain's gone all of a sudden. So you start to create your own evidence. It's important that people start to have their own evidence that their pain is a structure of the brain. Yeah? This is in terms of chronic pain, not acute pain. So chronic pain is a whole different ballgame. And what will also help you or anybody in chronic pain is seva. So the beautiful yoga practice of seva, of being in service to others less fortunate than yourself. Because there's always going to be people who are worse off than you, who are in more pain than you. And we know that places in the brain light up when you're giving. Some people have an addiction to giving. It makes you feel so good. It gives you a huge reward to give, to help others. So sacred service to others without the need thinking something's going to come back to you. You just feel better for it. Yeah? And you take the negative ego, you take that hold, that grip, the clenching that the mind has, the clenching that the physical body has, off yourself. And for that moment, your pain has gone. So you start to create evidence that you can change your pain. And that's why we find that yoga can be such an empowering practice for people.
Like Shivani, I had a scoliosis of the spine, and I don't talk about it, I don't acknowledge it, I just fight through it. That's a bit weird. Seriously.
No, I think a lot of people do that.
But at the same time, now I'm more like to go, well, you know what, I'm going to go and do the long bath, and I'm going to get out the tennis ball. So,
Some people with scoliosis have no pain.
yeah.
Maybe
I'm
because they're
pain
ignoring it
now.
if you had pain,
Yeah.
but some people don't have any pain. They don't have
Yeah.
a story behind it.
Yeah.
Usain Bolt, the fastest man in the world, has scoliosis.
Really?
It's never held him back.
Wow.
Yeah? And now my scoliosis never holds me back because I
Yeah.
don't have the story and the shit behind it.
Yeah.
I've dealt with it. Yeah?
Yeah.
Ignoring pain can be a survival mechanism,
Yeah.
and that can work for a period of time, but at some point it'll catch up to you. Whether you become addicted to a substance, or addicted to work, for a lot of people it catches up with them at some point. Other people, no. But there you go, pain's just telling you, don't hold them on this hip today, hold them on this hip. Or maybe we need to work on posture.
Yes.
And the Buddha said that pain is inevitable. We're all going to have some kind of pain, acute pain in our lives, but suffering is optional.
Oh, yeah.
We don't need to suffer. If we have the mind-body tools, we don't need to suffer, because understanding will give you a great sense of empowerment and to be present in this moment so you can deal with it, you can overcome it. Yeah?
At what point, though, would you direct someone to see a specialist if they've got pain? So, an example is my knee.
Yeah.
I had a knee reconstruction when I was 19. I'm now 37. I've only just, weirdly, in the last few weeks, feeling some pain. Never ever felt any pain there since my operation.
Go and get it
when
checked.
it's emotional, or is it actually like something more serious that I should go and investigate?
I would definitely go and get it checked because
Yeah.
we're not, we're 5 layers. We can't take away the physical element that you could have new tissue damage for sure,
Yes.
certainly. And I think on Sunday we talked about how science gives us the ability to look inside the body, through CAT scans and MRIs. And for some people that can be, as it was for me, a powerful trigger to say, oh, I have slip disc, I have lots of inflammation, I've got to stop practicing yoga in this intense way, I've got to take it easy. That was a positive catalyst for me. But for other people, they can see their MRI and go into total panic, and it can make them worse. But 50% of people with a slip disc don't have any pain. So having degeneration in the body, whether it's in your spine or in your knee, is a natural part of aging. So maybe it's not a big deal. Maybe it is a big deal, and you won't know until you investigate. So you investigate all levels: physical, mental, emotional. You go to the physio, you go to the doctor, you go to the psychologist, the counselor. And then it becomes a whole body healing rather than just healing on one level. So you want to listen to your body while it's whispering until it starts to scream. Because then when it's screaming, that's when we can often be truly in some kind of danger. It's the listening, that aspect of yoga, being totally present and really cultivating, listening to the whole self. Yeah.
I had a week away recently, and I swear I've come back worse from stopping.
My daughter, when she was in primary school, every school holiday she had a massive migraine. Every school holiday. She was an A student.
It happens to many people addicted to work. They've been working on adrenaline. They suddenly stop.
You're so used to
physically collapse. So it comes back to our belief system about why we get sick. Yeah. So the Japanese have always said that we get sick as a way for the body to reset itself, to make it stronger. And that's, children, babies, they get sick to strengthen their immune system. You had the flu, so it's a chance for you to totally relax and do things you usually wouldn't do. There are viruses, there are bacteria, there are reasons we do get sick. But what is the story? What is your belief system about why? Like, how are you going to perceive that sickness? How are you going to make it part of your story? So some people, they're pushing, and then they stop, and then all of a sudden, everything just comes up, because finally you have the time to notice. So some of us use suppression or, just ignoring things as a coping strategy to get things done. And that's okay for a time. But then it comes back to choosing, is this the way I want to live my life? On high alert all the time. And, because yoga is constantly trying to bring us back to a balance. Balance with the sympathetic nervous system and balance with the parasympathetic nervous system. The light and the dark, the day and the night. We want to have that balance. If we were always in parasympathetic and just lethargic and always doing restorative yoga, we'd be big blobs. So the body does need some positive stress. And for some people, mental stress will get them to hand things in on a deadline. That's me. I work better under positive stress. Yeah. But negative stress, and it's different for everybody, is usually hurting. It's not a healing mechanism for you.
I just had an aha moment, Shivani, that the pain that I'm carrying in my lower back is now attached to my third male energy, which is my son. So,
Oh, yes.
yeah,
Flares up.
interesting. Yeah, that's,
My menstrual pain flares up during Christmas when my mom starts going crazy. Presents and all the superficial stuff. I get period pain. Severe period pain. And then the rest of the year I'm fine. No issues. So I get so angry and so stressed.
You know that that's coming. Does that help?
Yeah, it does. Because I know why I'm in pain.
You know why.
And knowledge is always power.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, most of the time. If you have the other skills behind you,
Yeah.
the courage, the fearlessness, the support. Support is big when you're going through pain. We can't do anything alone, let alone go through things. And personally and professionally, as yoga instructors, we need to learn when we can do things for people, be there, be a support, but when we also have to say, I can no longer help you, I need to refer you on. Yeah, we're not saviors, we can't help everybody, and there'll be limitations to what we can do, so also letting go again, letting other people support a student that you've had time with but can no longer help. That's a big part of it as well. Otherwise, as a teacher, you'll just get bogged down with other people's stuff. So you've got to cut those cords, you've got to clear your own energy, and which is why the chanting is really important, beginning and end of class. You're sealing that energy. And then afterwards, I don't know if Gail does it, I think she does. I do it too. I have my own little ritual where I shake off and
I
have a shower.
I have one that someone taught me, which I've taught so many people and I use all the time. And just think about your son. I don't know if they want me to show it to you, but basically you stand, say it's Shivani, if you're the client and I'm got your stuff. You just put your hands together like that, and you put your hand like that, and then you cut the cord. You're actually cutting the cord. And I have had experiences where I'm imagining that person, they may not actually be there, and that could go for half an hour, could go for 2 minutes, or can go for like an hour. But in terms of when you've got a break from, say your son, that you can't, you really can't help them. Every now and then you just go, okay, I see your loving kindness, whatever I'm doing, what I can from my end, but the rest is up to you, and bang.
It's very hard to cut the cord with your child.
Yes.
But Gail always talks about how our children have their own journey. There's only so much we can do.
It's getting that rational.
There's only so much we can do. And some people want to feel pain, they love their pain, they're not willing to let it go. So people will only...
This comes into our Ishwana
Pradidhana.
The surrender. And one of the big surrenderings we have to do is being attached to life being the way we think it should be. And we've sold this dummy story by magazines and Hollywood that true love lasts forever, all children will bring us love and joy. If I do the right things, there'll be a reward in this life and in the afterlife. That bad things happen to the bad person, like it's bullshit.
Absolutely.
Life doesn't care.
Whereas Katie said on the weekend, it's all lies.
Yeah, about childbirth, she was saying she's never told the truth about the pain of childhood. So yes, we have this illusion, and one of my teachers, I've never met him in person and stuff, but I used to read from him, that we need to become de-hypnotised. We're hypnotised into the world, our experience, life being a certain way, and it's like the red pill and the blue pill. We all need to take that red pill and wake up to the fact that life is not fair and it doesn't care. And your children, your loved ones, your friends, your enemies, we have to come to acceptance of the soul journey that they're on. Shivani and I have been talking about doing a mini counselling and spiritual laws course for therapists and teachers. So it's how do we actually bring these concepts into our own life? How do we live them with the real situations that are coming up? It's great to sit in my meditation for 2 minutes this morning and I talk to you about surrendering and you feel all heavy and on the floor and here I surrendered. But how do I actually do that when I've got a child who's murdered someone, or I've got a husband who's embezzled someone, or how do I actually surrender? How do I do that? And how do I support a student or a client who's coming suffering? We have to have worked out our own philosophy, our own understanding of the spiritual laws. We have to have a strong grounding in that before we can be a clear channel to be of service with the teachings to others and not come into fear or give the wrong advice, say the wrong words. Ultimately, we want the people in our world to feel that we are a safe place to come when they need to come. We've got our stuff handled. So more than anything, it's the vibration that you have in yourself about your understanding of the journey of the soul, the journey of life.
And you need to make space for people to grow.
Yes.
And you need to make space and change your dance to let somebody else change.
You know, when in my hardest time with parenting was that what's the worst that can happen here? The very worst that can happen is that they die. Or, you know, they might become injured in some way, become incapacitated, or their freedom's taken away, they go to jail, right? The worst, you know, I used to think, what's the very worst thing that could happen? And I could be at peace with that, because I understand the journey of the soul is not about the externals. It's not about how successful we are in business, or how much money we make, or whether we get married or not, or whether we live a long life. That's not the purpose of the soul journey. So if I surrender the story that we've been told, and I can sit with the very worst that can happen, then everything is okay. It doesn't mean I won't have sadness, or I won't have emotions around it, but I know the emotions are just the human reaction to it.
Gail mentioned the illusion, awareness of the illusion, that we're actually not in control of ourselves or of others. And that's another thing that true yoga, when you go through the 8 limbs, it takes you from that darkness, maya, the illusion, that we think the egoic mind, the negative mind, is in control of everything. And you have this direct experience that there is something greater, whether you call it soul, the soul journey, whether you call it God or energy or whatever it is, there is something greater than us. And when we can feel that and allow it to come through us, then it gives us a great sense of peace, a great sense of presence and peace, and that we're interconnected. So science, self and soul.
I found a sentence useful for me when it's either my family or counselling clients, when it's totally not the way I would want them to do it, that's an interesting way to do it. That's an interesting way to do it. I'm curious about, and I might not say it to them, it might be a sentence I need to say to myself. I'm curious why a soul would choose to do it that way. It's an interesting way to do it, rather than, and that's the Ajna chakra, rather than being in judgment of, oh, I'm so glad they're doing it that way, or I'm so upset they're doing it that way. That's an interesting life choice. That's an interesting soul journey.
That's the investigation.
Yes.
Investigate.
Yes.
So because we know that we put ourselves into suffering, whether it's our own personal suffering or feeling like we're not being a good parent or a good partner, when we're in a state of aversion, we're trying to push away the situation, or when we're clinging onto the situation, wanting it to be different, trying to guide our kids into one direction or our partner into one direction. So aversion and clinging are 2 of the main ways that we suffer. But if we instead choose to investigate why we feel this way, why this is coming up for us, why we're feeling the pain, it's the investigation that brings the self-empowerment and the realization. So education is so important.
And we need tribe. We need matriarchs in our tribe that can look at it from that higher perspective. And this is your Ajna chakra.
If you go through all of the chakras, so simply first chakra is guiding us to a state of safety, security, and tribe. Yeah? Second chakra, once we have the solidity, then we move into fluidity, right? Being fluid with ourselves and with others, and that interplay of energy, whether it's mental energy, sexual energy, creative energy. So we go from the solid to the liquid. Yeah? Then we come up to the third chakra, which is the fire, which is the courage. Yeah? We drawing the energy of passion and our desire to want to move forward in life. We need courage to come deep into the heart chakra, which is vulnerability. Yeah? We become very vulnerable when we want to share love, when we want to share sadness, when we want to be in joy. You know, to be joyful. People often think you're crazy if you're walking around with a smile on your face. So we need that strength, that courage, and that confidence, and the physical strength to be able to express love. And then we come up to here, which we worked on last month, being able to speak clearly and authentically from the heart. And what we're working on this month, Ajna Chakra, being guided by our inner wisdom, what we know to be true. And also, I think Ajna Chakra is, as Gail mentioned, the wisdom of our teachers, the people that have come before us, our parents, our grandparents, being open to receiving guidance from within and from people that we know we can trust. We can trust their own experiences. And then finally, we come up to the crown chakra, which is where, once we go through all the chakras, we feel a total sense of presence and peace and a sense of connection. Yeah? Connection to source, connected to the soul, connected to something greater than ourselves. So we let go of that egoic mind that thinks it's all about me, it's all about me. And when we make it all about us, then we're quite lonely and we're in a thing of suffering. Not to take away self-care and the importance of self-practice, but when we feel that interconnectedness. That book, what is the book? About anxiety and depression, it's so prevalent. Lost connections. The whole premise is that the reason we get anxious, clinically we get anxiety, clinically we get depression, is because we are disconnected from ourselves, from our truth, and we have also disconnected from tribe. We're disconnected from the family, whether it's your blood family or whether it's your chosen family. And a way to heal, a way to bring the mind back to a sense of stability, to take it out of the darkness or out of the busyness, is to find those connections again. And that's why yoga is so powerful, because yoga is about direct connection with yourself. And then once we feel confident in that, then we can be directly connected with others. We can be there in their space without feeling fear. We can look them eye to eye. Yeah? So for Ajna Chakra too, we have eye gazing meditations. We begin with the physical eyes, but then we're actually cultivating the internal eye, to be in direct connection with Source. So it's a really good book to have a look at. There's another really good article in your notes that talks about healing crises. Mm-hmm. So sometimes in order to heal, in order to feel wholeness, to come to a sense of acceptance, compassion, surrender and hope, we need to go through a healing crisis, which means it gets worse before it gets better. And sometimes when we bring full awareness to our pain, it all comes up and we think, oh, I don't think this is working for me. This diet's not working for me. This fast is, usually day 3 of a fast. You're a mess. You physically don't think you can go on. Or if you do yoga and you're, every day doing yoga and you get to a point where, I'm so in pain now. The healing cry that comes up, things get worse before they get better. So that's when it's key to have that support so that you feel like you can go on. Who was talking about feeling like in the marathon? If your uncle and cousin hadn't come up behind you, maybe you would have just walked the rest of the way or stopped.
Because then they were pushing me along.
Yeah. So important to have support when you go through the path of healing, because it's not easy.
I've found that many times you sort of think, you do something that's going to make things better, like you start getting massage or you start doing something like that, and then I've heard that expression many times, because you then think, I'm really sick now, or like you go on holiday or whatever. And I feel like with this whole Sayama, of course, I've had one thing after the next. And I keep saying, it's just a healing crisis. Started down, urinary tract infection, and then every chakra just went up and
Testing you. So students will come to you with chronic pain. And you say, that's okay, just do as much as you feel you can. I'm here to support you. And you can explain that it's very natural in yoga to feel emotional. It's okay. If you want to cry, please cry. And if you've had that in your own experience, you can share very quickly, briefly, your own experience. It's okay to refer. You may say, I don't think this class is right for you. It's a very physical class. If you're needing more of an emotional healing, perhaps go to a gentler class. So you have your referrals. You refer outside of the yoga world as well. and the importance of explaining to people that pain is in the brain. It has all different levels, not just the physical level, and yoga can help you on many different levels. Yeah? And I think on Sunday too we talked about, usually it is the divine mystery. Students will come to you when you're ready to receive them. So you'll attract certain kinds of people to your class. You'll have different students to what I will ever have. So it's also about learning to trust that you have a unique gift, you have a unique story, and that will be able to help somebody else or a certain type of people. Yeah.
So we talked on Sunday as well about what happens if someone does have a healing crisis in your class.
Come sit here, Gail. Don't do it for you. Don't do it for you, do it for others.
Just put your crown on, darling, and sit over there.
Yeah, because it is helping others. Just ignore it. I don't even look at it.
What?
The camera.
I forgot it was still on.
So yes, what do you do if someone starts crying or if someone goes, oh my God, or there's some crisis in your classroom? So the very first thing is to protect them. Walk near, don't touch. Address the rest of the class. We'll all go into down dog now. Something so they're not looking. Yeah? What do you need? Yeah? Sometimes they can't talk.
They don't know.
I've had one lady ask me for a hug, one lady said, I don't know what I need. Sometimes they're just crying, and so I'll stand and da-da-da. So you establish that connection of you're there for them, the healing relationship, and you're protecting them from the eyes or other people in the class staring and going, what's going on? A couple of times I've had to actually stop the class and stop the massage or whatever I was doing to actually get an ambulance in one case, or one lady in a yoga class had an asthma attack and she didn't have a puffer with her and no one had a puffer, so it was all hands on deck to get an ambulance. She was in quite a lot of distress. She hadn't told me that she had asthma, and she'd gone to the toilet in the break and it was really cold outside and windy and it had triggered it, and she didn't come back to the class. She stayed in the toilet trying to handle it herself. By the time she crawled back in, it was really emergency stage. So have on hand the numbers that you need. Your osteopath, your 000, who are you going to refer this person to? If it's acute, as Shivani said, you obviously get hospital help. Saying on Sunday about a person who went into great spasm and couldn't move, and I needed to phone an osteopath friend to get advice of how to move this person and what to do with them. I ended up dying of cancer 3 weeks later. So I have to be, as a teacher, in no fear that whatever happens with you, I'm here by your side.
It's okay.
It's
like
okay.
Some people don't know what they need, so you just say, it's okay, I'm here. Keep breathing.
Yes,
Breathe.
keep breathing.
And then slowly, once they feel supported, then they'll say, oh, I need a tissue, or I can't go on.
Yeah.
And then you go. But I think hearing the words, it's okay.
It's okay.
It's
We've
okay
got this.
to cry.
It's okay.
To not do the pose.
Yeah.
It's okay. Yeah.
So was there anything else about that we talked about? How you handle the healing
Staying
process?
calm. Yeah, you still want other people to have their yoga experience and not to be too influenced. And it happens so rarely, but it can happen, is the thing. So you have to know how to respond and not get reactive and think, oh, what do I do? It's okay. It's okay for you too, not to know what to do. If you don't know what to do, then you get help.
Ability to be calm and I've got this no matter what's going on. Your breath. Yeah. That was.
You have to stay grounded. That's why ambulance officers walk to the scene of an emergency rather than run, because they don't want to put themselves in a stressful state.
Yeah.
So staying calm, first chakra, feeling grounded, have your support system. Yeah, and there's usually, as you start to teach, you'll get your regular students, wise people who will be able to help you in those situations as well. They can call for help, or they can take over the class.
Yes.
That's another good strategy. Yeah. So there's many different ways that you can make a situation that seems dire into a rewarding situation for everybody.
Science, It needs to be part of science so that they do the empirical studies. That needs to be.
It does need to be
married.
part of
It really needs
science,
to be.
but unfortunately, a lot of the time when science takes over it, they strip it down, they make it so,
It goes to an ethics committee.
so, because some things cannot be explained. Like why we love somebody, how do you explain why this is the person I love, truly? You know, and that's, I love science, I love pain science, it's amazing. But some things you have to leave to the energetic realm. It's just, that's how it is. This is how I personally experience it. The placebo effect, it's like the placebo effect as well. You know, give somebody a pill with nothing in it.
Yeah.
I feel great.
I used
There
to
are some
argue that
things
so
that,
much. Yeah, my dad's a science teacher, so I used to argue that with him when I was a teenager. I'd be like, but the placebo effect is the thing that's working. It's actually the thing that's working. The placebo effect isn't the negative part of this study. It is the study.
Yeah.
And he'd be like,
And I think yesterday in Venus, we were talking about awe, like curiosity. Curiosity leads to a sense of awe and wonder. And it's the awe and wonder that often gives you the bliss of life. So if we have everything scientifically written out for us, this equals this equals that, we lose our sense of curiosity in some respects. And the awe factor, the wow factor isn't there for us.
yeah.
So it's finding the fine line, isn't it? Yeah.
So in psychology, they've proven that certain things work. But actually, when you do a big empirical study of all the studies, of multiple studies, there is no one technique, even though it's been proven in this way to work empirically. So therefore, it's part of the APS, so you can get a Medicare rebate for it and all that sort of stuff. But actually, when you look at it overall, it's the therapeutic relationship that is the thing, that is the defining factor of what is working for that therapy.
Yeah.
And they've shown that now. So they've taken a back step and gone, actually we need to teach our psychologists how to have a relationship with people, because we're not doing that. Whereas
And
the
science-
counsellors, like me, who can't get a Medicare rebate, we learned that from day dot. This is what we do. This is what we know.
Counsellors don't get a Medicare rebate. Really?
Counselling doesn't, no.
Not counselling.
Neither
I'm a
does
You have to be a
psychologist.
psychiatrist or a psychologist.
Clinical
counselling
psychologist
someone.
or a registered
With
psychologist.
all my degree, you can't.
Crazy. But science constantly overturns itself as well.
Yeah.
So what we know to be true is what is happening in this moment, presently.
Yeah.
Yeah? Because what works for me now may not work for me tomorrow. I might do something and my carpal tunnel is fine, but the next day it's not. So we can't be locked into a fixed view of anything. And I think, too, that's what Gail mentioned about changing the mind, having an open mind and an open heart to just moment by moment. And that's what meditation teaches us as well, is to be in direct experience with this moment. So the practices we learn in yoga, it's a very pragmatic practice of just being here now, noticing the breath. What is the breath revealing about your nervous system? What are the sensations you're feeling in the body? And then slowly we start to witness that, and it changes again, it shifts. Yeah, so it's a very, I think yoga is amazing.
No, really?
And you have to try it for yourself. You have to be ready. You have to be ready. You can't force somebody. You have to be ready. And I think that's with chronic pain too. You have to be at that point where I will no longer put up with this.
Yeah.
That you're finally willing to make a change, to let go.
It's amazing when you finally come to that recognition of like not being able to, ever make anyone else do anything you want them to do, really. Like, you can't. God, I tried. That's true. I've given a lot of time over the years for that. And then finally, like, I've only really grasped it in the last year, I reckon. That I finally, I'm like, okay, and no one else can make me do anything. So I should have got that a long
The
time
letting
ago.
go.
I think I told you that 20 years ago.
Yeah, you probably did.
Yeah.
That's
Is there anything else?
Yep, try.
Anything to share, whether it's an observation or something personal?
Science, unfortunately, yes, is what it is and it needs its proof. But I think as technology is going on, just staying on a little bit, as technology is improving, so is the proof that these
Yeah.
things do work.
Yeah.
And I have been reading a lot of books about, and I've talked about neuroplasticity before, and there is so much proof that these breathing techniques work. That, you know, putting your tongue in a certain place in your mouth when you're meditating, whatever, that vibrations work and all this sort of stuff. Putting the positive spin on it is being proven.
It is, yeah.
Bit by bit. And I do think, talk about gut health, you know, it's the big thing we're all hearing about, and all these foods, amazing foods, etc., etc. Now, if you've gone to a naturopath 50 years ago, they would have said that, you know, but there was no proof of it. But now there is proof. Now there is proof, and now the doctors might start talking about it.
Yes.
So
it's great.
it has improved. Yeah, things are improving in that respect, and as technology improves, so will the proof of all these different amazing things like yoga.
And
like
as that
meditation.
proof includes in that world, you will see the drug companies trying to take more and more control.
Oh, yes.
Which is why our choices are being taken away, because the drug companies fear this proof that's coming up in the
Yes.
other world.
Exactly.
So all we can do is have no fear.
Yes.
Have no fear. Just keep doing and
practicing.
trusting that humanity will come to
Yes, that's right.
But
That's
you
right.
see how everything's going so mainstream now. So what was once, you know, hardly ever, you know, in books and stuff like that, it's all over the internet. It's everywhere. There's so much information.
The
that
groundswell
it's
of
and
consumers will make
so
the change.
many people, so many like main. It's, you know, there's things. Even just from the form of the vegan movement, which is like taking the world by storm at the moment, but you know, that everything like that, it's the same sort of thing, like the microbiome, all of that. That was only a couple of years ago. It was barely ever spoken about. Now it's everywhere.
We have so much information, and science is also really important to have that proof, but we also need the embodied experience of
Yes.
putting it into practice.
That's right.
And then being
your own experience
fascinated
is the
by
best,
what happens.
Is the best
Yeah.
judge, the best guide is your own experience. You know, we all know these things work. Yeah.
It's like I wake up every hour and a half in my sleep. I can't get to 2 hours sleep in the night. I'm up every hour and a half. After Kundalini Yoga, I can sleep for 4.5, nearly 5 hours. And
Wow.
it happened after the 2 nights I did Monday, Tuesday night, and then the Wednesday night I had a premonition dream and saw it happen the next day. That when you practice, it does have those changes, but without practicing it or embodying it, you don't physically feel the changes to then share your experiences.
Yeah, it has to be embodied. And because now it's so saturated and so prolific, I think that's why we have to also maintain the essence of the teachings as well. We need to be evolutionary and adapt because our bodies are different, the environment is different, but we can't take certain practices like just the breathing out of context. Because if you're doing these powerful breathing practices and your physical body isn't in a state to contain that flow of breath, that's when the breathing practices can be misunderstood and misdirected and can cause injury. So I think it's so important. You can't just teach breathing, pranayama. You have to have the asana practice as well. So if we go back to the very first week of Sayama where we had the 8 limbs, yoga is a whole practice. It's not just saying, do the breathing. This will take you to bliss and heal you. So I think our role as future yoga teachers and facilitators is to remember the true essence of yoga, that it is. We've got the 5 koshas, we've got the 8 limbs, and everything as a package. Hopefully will get you to that safe place of nirvana or samadhi, bliss. Doesn't mean you no longer have an issue, but it means that in this present moment you have the tools to be totally aware in a higher consciousness. So yeah, I think it's great. But I think just having ice baths on the side and just having a breathing practice here.
A float tank every couple of months.
Yeah, it's not for the deeper, the more sustained, I think, pathway, is it?
And is that why yoga means union? Because it's everything?
I think if that's what it means to you, yes. The union of everything, yeah. So we've only got, what's the time? 10 to. So I did want to guide you through a yin practice using rain. but we only have 10 minutes, so you can do the video practice. Yes? Would you do that? Are you okay with doing a video practice?
Sure.
So I'll try and find one where I talk about rain or raft. Or this week's yin yoga class, I will record and I'll make it specifically for our Sayama peeps. Reframe it all again in terms of Ajna Chakra, your intuitive wisdom. Keep coming back and invoking that higher sense of self, your guru, the one that takes you from darkness to light. Compassion practice I'll also include in this week's yin yoga class. We'll do a compassion meditation. Karuna is the compassion practice.